亚洲产业文化资产平台，也就是我们说的 ANIH， 是一个亚太地区的跨国产业文化资产平台。这个平台呢，是以多边的交流、还有资讯共享、还有跨域协作作为精神跟目标。我们希望来推动文化资产区域性和主题性的国际交流合作。长期以来呢，ANIH 我们盘点了亚洲产业文化资产的经典案例，还有名录。也梳理了亚洲产业文化资产的体系还有脉络，而这些学术资讯都可以在 ANIH 网站上看到。此外，还有这个半年期的这个期刊，提供专业的知识分享。每年度的这些论坛，我们也邀集了专家学者还有青年人齐聚一堂，大家共同来进行传承还有交流的活动，以及各式各样的讲座推广的这些活动，也都在这里发生。平时大家也可以关注 ANIH 的一些 Facebook， 还有 IG， 还有 Twitter， 我们可以了解到全球产业文化资产的最新趋势还有讯息。大家都了解到，现在是一个数位的时代，每一个人呢都可以透过知识型的这个影片来做线上还有线下的自我学习。也因此呢 ，ANIH 的线上学习专区，我们希望用各种的影片，以有趣而且容易了解的方式开出亚洲各国不同文化资产领域的这些佼佼者，还有研究学者，他们多年的经验和成果，借由这些无远弗届的网络，把这些知识传播给更多的人，让大家更容易参与，而且乐于学习，让文化资产走进更多人的这个日常生活。我觉得这是一件非常。这一个系列的线上学习的影片呢，我们将介绍。
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start.
Okay. Dear participants from Taiwan and the viewers from around the world, welcome to ANIH International Webinar Series. This meeting is organized by the Asia Network of Industrial Heritage with the supervision from the Bureau of Cultural Heritage, Minister of Culture from Taiwan. My name is Xiaowei Lin. I'm the chair for the advisory committee for ANIH. So today we are very delighted to have so many distinguished speakers will tell us some of their water heritage related projects. I think while echo to ANIH's sustainability and resilience theme this year. So today our webinar will drive into how to engage the community in a living water museum and also the global power of networking on water management, as well as looking into the transformation of historical water facilities to modern water museums. And the webinar will intend to reflect the emerging and developing role of youth engagement in Asia and in the water sectors. So we are delighted to introduce our today's distinguished speaker. So when I call your name, please wave your hand to our audience. Yeah. First one is our Dr. Sarah Arment. Thank you. And the second speaker will be Mr. Sukit Sun from India. Then our third speaker will be Director Huang Wenhuang. Hello. Yeah. And lastly, we have Mr. Gregor van Essen from Netherlands. So welcome all of you. And I think Annie was mentioned about we are going to make a group photo. So can we have a photo shot now? Then
Okay.
I will, yeah, and I will continue.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, say cheese. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Annie. So today our process is we will have 4 presentations. Then after we have a joint discussion. All right. So now we are going to welcome our first speakers, Dr. Sarah Ahmed. She has more than 30 years research and practical experience on water, gender, and governance issue in India and all over the South Asia. She's also a founder director of a Living Water Museum and vice president of the global network of Water Museum now. So today she's going to introduce some of her project on the Living Water Museum. So let's welcome the Dr. Sarah Ahmed. So the floor is yours, Sarah. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this opportunity to share some of our work with your audience. Next slide, please. So I think all over the world, at least in the developing world and where we live in India, there is obviously a water challenge, a water crisis, and it's a crisis of either too less or too much water. And most of all, this crisis, I think, affects our children, our future water keepers, as we like to call them. And a lot of children around the world do spend time collecting water for household use rather than attending school. So this is a little poem from one of our projects with WaterAid in central India. Next slide, please. So in 2017, a number of water museums around the world came together in Venice to launch the global network of water museums and to ask ourselves, what did we want in terms of a paradigm for future water management? How can we listen to water? How can we respect water? How can we understand the different issues of accessibility and control over water, and what kind of an ethical lens we can take? So water museums have a very critical role in terms of the history, the artifacts, and their collections, but they also have a very important role in terms of engaging with people, particularly young people and youth, through educational initiatives. And in 2018, the Global Network of Water Museums was recognized by UNESCO's Intergovernmental Hydrology Program as a special initiative towards Sustainable Goal 6 on water. Next, please. Next. Yeah, this is the why and the sort of the rationale for why we started the global network to really think about what we can do to influence behavioral change around water, and to kind of develop this more ethical lens and inclusive lens for how we look at water. Next slide. So we have now grown from 30 members in 2017 to 120 water museums around the world in 42 countries. And there are having 25 million visitors, or 2.5 million, whatever, per year. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are just some of the countries where we are represented, from Asia, from Africa, from the Americas, and of course, Italy. All these sort of water-rich countries have a lot more museums with us. Next. Yeah. And the water museums are a diverse lot of museums. I'll talk a bit about our work because we're a hybrid museum, but many of these museums have been built around ancient water sites, technologies, things like an aqueduct or sluice gates, or they're out in the open, they're eco-museums, they're around wetlands, other water engineering systems that are very old, or they're absolutely new museums working with local communities. Even I think in the Middle East, in Iraq, there's something called an open museum. So there are many different types of water museums. There's no blueprint. Next. Yeah, and this is a bit more what we're trying to sort of do, promote this paradigm shift. Next. And one of the ways we try and do this is our annual contest with schools and now also early university students, asking them to think about the water they want. What is their water future? And this can be in the form of art, music, poetry, a short film. And we collect all these entries from around the world through our water museum members, and then there are winners announced every year, and sometimes there is a small cash prize for those who have won. Next. And in 2022, we launched this exhibition called I Remember Water, working with 6 curators. There are different galleries in the exhibition that look at water from a historical lens, a spiritual, place-based, transformational, etc. And really, we received more than 650 entries from museum archives and also from photographers and artists. And we kind of put them together in this exhibition. So I'd really encourage you to look at this. Next. And it's a growing exhibition. We've done things like worked on exhibition for UNESCO during the International Year of Groundwater, which I think was 2022, making the invisible visible. Next. And what we launched in New York last year, the Walk of Water, also a photo exhibition around this. So these are some of the initiatives that we do as a global network. Next. Yeah, and this is something we launched this year at the 10th World Water Forum in Indonesia, in Bali, looking at the role of ancient hydro technologies for food security. And this is also a video presentation that I think is now available on the Water Museum's website. Next. Yeah, this is some of the shots from Bali. Next. So I have a lot to say. And this is something we're doing. We're also working with the IHP to create this world inventory of water museums. And we would encourage some of you who think, and it doesn't have to be something that's called a museum. It could be an interpretation center around a historical water site or a wetlands or something like that. So we're trying to compile these and create an inventory. And if anyone wants more information on this, again, please contact the Water Museum Network. Next. So in India, in 2017, when I joined the global network and was there in Venice for the launch, we were also beginning our initiative as a hybrid museum, Living Waters Museum. And really the idea was to archive the past, inform the present, and ensure the future, to work with schools, with children, with academic institutions, to do this kind of storytelling on water heritage. And a lot of that, as you'll hear from my colleague later, works with the arts, the creative arts and the performing arts, music and dance and theater. Next. And so I'm just going to go through very quickly some of the work that we've been doing. This is using photogrammetry to document one of our step wells in the Western Indian state of Gujarat. And to understand the importance of step wells as ancient hydrotechnologies, these were structures that were made not only to preserve and conserve water and to provide water for local communities, but also for travelers. These were places that people came and sat in the cool shade, they talked, they exchanged things, and they're very rich. And we have step wells across Western India all the way up into Central Asia. Next. And this is a futuristic storytelling about a little girl like Alice in Wonderland who falls into one of these wells and has to find her way out by closing these water taps, which are actually drawing water upwards from aquifers for urbanization. So the idea of the story is about conflict between rural and urban water users. How does one understand that? How does one negotiate that? And this story was done by one of our interns working with us a few years ago. Next. We've also been partnering with a lot of physical museums to bring alive their stories and their collections on water. So this is one which has an amazing collection on water utensils. And so we use this to talk about the value of water, virtual water embedded in the food we eat or the clothes we wear. Next. So these are some of the ways we did this kind of storytelling, short stories, working with students, in the first person. And obviously these are all translated as well. Next. So yeah, I won't go into all of these because we do have a lot to go through. Next. And in 2020, when the pandemic started, that's when we actually started looking more deeply into urban waterscapes, because I think we all know that the crisis of water is also a crisis of urbanization. And how do we look at all our urban spaces and how water has evolved over there? So this was our first exhibition in Mumbai, bringing together almost 36 collaborating individuals, architects, photographers, artists, students, etc., to look at water. So this was the beginning. Next. And we also wanted the exhibition to talk about issues of caste and inclusion and gender. So it's not all about the beautiful assets, but it also about who has access and what kind of access and when. So we wanted to tell some of these stories again. This is a very important story. You can read about it more on the exhibition platform. And also this one, yeah, go ahead, next. This is an interactive diagram, which there are, I think, about 200 dots on the diagram. And when you click on these dots, you'll have a little pop-up that shows you, who that creature is, where do they live in the intertidal zone along the shoreline or further up, So these are the kind of things that we've been doing with young people to create these kind of stories on natural, built, and intangible water heritage. Next. We did the same thing in Pune, where I live right now. We've also created an interactive map and stories of water in Pune. And next. And we've taken this work with a grant that we had two schools, and we created pedagogy and content on water classrooms around these 4 modules. Our water and the self, our shared waters, water systems, and water and the planet. And we did this for middle schools. They were very interactive classes with games, with artwork, with, where if we could take them outdoors, we did. And now we're trying to extend this water classrooms as part of a new project we're doing with global partners to Burkina Faso in West Africa, where they speak French. So we're going to have to work with partners there to do that. There is a museum we're working with there. Next. I haven't been told anything on time yet. I'm just finishing now. This is another part of our work in Jodhpur, and also on the water heritage built by the kings, and where is it now? Next. Yeah. Again, working with artists. And finally, I think this may be the last slide. We're now working in the South Indian state of Goa with a lot of young people there, looking at research and art and how we can embed these together. And I think that was the last one, just to bring us back to the point that where I started from, really, that it's all very nice doing these beautiful stories and art and all, but at the same time, we really have to think about how this changes or affects the lives of people who are struggling for water every day. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much for Sarah's presentation. I think you open up the discussion topic, which we are going to explore today. I think especially nowadays in the face of the challenge of climate change, and we need to have a more innovative water resource management and also the engagement for the people's awareness. And art and education could be a very good resource. Yeah, thank you. And we can leave the discussion later. So our next speaker, let's welcome Mr. Sukhit Sen. He is a heritage and disaster manager by profession and a musician by passion. As earlier Sarah has been mentioned, he participated in many of these projects, and also he's interested in the linkage between tangible and intangible heritage regarding to the water. So now let's welcome Mr. Surik. Yeah. Okay, his presentation title is The Living Water Museum, Community and Collaborations. Yeah, let's welcome Surik. We didn't hear your sound. Does your microphone is open? Turn on?
Is my presentation audible? Is my presentation visible? Yes, I can't hear Sarah or anyone. I can see you all moving, but anyway, nonetheless, good morning, everyone from India. I think Dr. Sarah has already given a very good context of our principles with the Living Waters Museum, and I'm just going to kind of extend that conversation into the work that we have been particularly doing in Calcutta, which is where I stay, and also look at how we have been engaging, particularly with the young crowd, to look at water heritage. So
We can't hear you.
oh, hello.
Oh yeah, now it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I don't know why it went on mute, but I was just saying that I started working with the Living Waters Museum as an intern, actually, when I was doing my master's at Ahmedabad University at the Center for Heritage Management, where Living Waters Museum was initially based out of. And we started exploring how can we interpret, water in different ways. Dr. Sarah gave me the liberty to kind of, go out in the world and, explore how people in general kind of like to interpret water heritage in general. So we actually started working with a lot of children to kind of understand what their perspective is, because particularly that was something I was interested in. So having a background in music, I think what really helped me was to explore the idea of water and music and how in different ways are they connected, whether through songs, whether through water itself, where we actually play water and look at the physics of water, of how sound travels faster in water than in air, and how we can also use water carrying utensils as percussion instruments as itself, and look at the sustainability aspect of how communities back in the days would reuse utensils in the morning as utensils and in the evening as instruments. So we explored a lot with students from different parts of the country, and it would sound something like, you, is my sound audible? So this was a small glimpse of the kind of activities we try to do with students, because the idea is not to just go to the students and tell them that, hey, this is this, this is this, this is this, but the idea is to make the students think out loud that what are the possibilities, what are the kind of things that we see on our daily lives all around us that include a lot of traditional knowledge, that include a lot of heritage, and that include a lot of attributes that we should be proud of. So we actually kind of, extended further on creating compositions, on collaborating with different musicians, dancers. There's a picture of our colleague Radhika here, who kind of created a fantastic presentation on the uh, efforts that women in India have to take to kind of fetch water from long distances, and that was presented through a performance. On the right, we have an image of musicians we collaborated with in Pondicherry in India, to look at creating musical instruments out of water carrying utensils and how we can use the science behind it to create different types of sounds. Now, we just didn't, what was interesting is that we just didn't limit this to India. We kind of, went abroad in the
We've lost you again, Suprit.
strategy that we have in India, and how, hello, am I audible? Okay. And so I was just talking about, we actually took this entire study that we did in India to the US as well. And we collaborated with students in the Northwestern State University and in MIT to look at how they feel about it. And what was very interesting is that the students and the teachers also came up with stories where communities in the US also use similar principles or have similar songs that relate to communities and rivers in the US. So this was a kind of an example of what we did. We gave the students their songbooks and we asked them what to create music together. So the idea was to really kind of celebrate water, and then the moment we start loving our waters, the pride for the same automatically comes along. That was the idea. Then when we came back to Calcutta, we thought that this is something that's really working out. So we must really collaborate with artists and look at what artists feel about it. So during COVID, we actually launched, um, a bit of a competition or a bit of a fellowship for musicians and performing artists to look at how they kind of interpret waters through their art forms. So it was titled Pani Ki Kahani. Pani is water and Kahani is story. So it rhymes together, but it's like the story of water through music, through art, through mime, through dance. There was a fantastic dancer who kind of talked about gender roles and how it is the toilet where he feels safe to express his gender, and he expressed that entire thing through his dance form, which I think was a fantastic way to kind of associate water, gender, and his identity. Then we also collaborated with storytellers who we currently travel to different parts of the country and talk about the water story of this country. So we call it Aab Ka Khwab, which means Aab is water and Khwab is a dream. So we actually humanize waters in these stories, and we try to talk about their stories from their perspective. So the stories that we often kind of perform are actually rivers talking to each other, the rivers talking to the sea, and talking like human beings about the problems and the beautiful environment that they are kind of in right now. Another aspect that we worked on and was one of our flagship projects was in Calcutta, where we worked with the US consulate here in Calcutta and worked with children to understand how we can use art as a tool for climate action. And we worked with students of Calcutta and the students of the Sundarbans, which is the biggest delta in the world and is a very, very climate sensitive area in the country and is exposed to a lot of cyclones. So we try to understand how, with the traditional knowledge of mangroves, can we look at cyclone resiliency in the Sundarbans, and how through art can the students in Calcutta kind of promote the same. So the rural students of Sundarbans came together with the urban students of Sundarbans to kind of start a conversation around traditional knowledge and art and how they can come together to fight climate action for them, by them. And here you can see there's actually a dance workshop going on where someone called Paramita Chaudhary, who was a very famous dancer here, actually talked about how students can look at their body movements to talk about climate action. We also had the opportunity to sit with diplomats and with students from Bangladesh also to discuss what students can do to kind of talk about the environment more in their regular curriculum, as Sarah also mentioned, the water classroom. So it was not exactly a part of it, but did take a similar approach. So then in Calcutta, we were like, okay, let's actually involve more students and try to understand their perspective of the city from them. So we took these students out for river walks. And when we do river walks, I think it's never just a heritage walk where we tell stories. We always ask the students to also contribute in various ways. So in this particular story, they actually ended up, creating beautiful sketches of the river that talks about the different moods of the river when during sunset, when there are students coming and sitting, when there are lovers sitting, when it's dark and there are people singing a song. So the kind of way they interact with the space, place making, and how the river contributes to the entire idea of place making is something also that came out very beautifully through these sketches. And when these sketches came up, we were like, okay, let's do something. Let's actually sit with architecture students and document these ghats or these structures that are next to the river. Because I guess what's interesting in India is that we have the problem of plenty. And while we have a lot of monuments, while we have a lot of heritage, not all of it is well documented. So we thought it's high time that we actually kind of contribute to the documentation process so that at anytime if we lose this heritage, there is always some evidence of what existed here. Like I said, when we do our walks, we never do our walks just to kind of talk about stories. So we often take students to even clean up the rivers. So we actually go to a spot, tell the story of the spot, and then we ask the students, okay, now that this spot is so beautiful, why don't you clean this place up? So this is actually a picture of the biggest flower market in South Asia, which is right next to the river. And we took students there to kind of, make the flower sellers aware and also kind of clean up plastic waste from the area. We sat with students and we were like, why do we just restrict ourselves to drawings and visual arts? Why don't you also do skits? So students actually took up beautiful stories that are associated with the river, mythological stories, historical stories, and they actually acted those stories out with real characters to kind of talk about the associations of the rivers. And when we are working with students, we also thought it would be great to kind of have experts also come down and help them out in the process. So that led to the development of, like Sarah said, we had Pune, we had Bombay. We kind of started working on a chapter in Calcutta, which we call the Jal Janto Kolkata. Again, Jal is water, Janto is living. So it kind of directly translates to the lively waters of Calcutta. I think we're out of time. So this is the kind of website we created, and I will really kind of request you all to go through it. But in the process, we also work very closely with different organizations, like you mentioned. I want to just kind of, go ahead and talk about our collaboration with ECOMOS. And I think one thing that came up very beautifully working with ECOMOS is the development of a framework while we were documenting all this heritage, was to look at how can we, while there are frameworks to document heritage, I thought it would be great to kind of make a framework that talks about documenting water heritage particularly. And that is where we collaborated with the National Scientific Committee of Water Heritage, which I'm currently coordinating. And we created this framework that particularly looks at documenting water heritage and what are the different attributes that we should consider while we document water heritage. So I'm going to end here right now. And we have a symposium coming up on the 7th, where we are collaborating with different organizations again and having the first annual general meeting of the National Scientific Committee and the International Scientific Committee of Water Heritage here in India. So I kind of, request you all to also look through our social media to look at what's happening. So thank you. I'll end here.
Okay, thank you very much for Sukhit's interesting project. I think it's give us a lot of insightful view about living water museums ideas. So it's really nice. And I also can see, as he mentioned, is a focus on how this kind of traditional knowledge can help the water management as well. I think this is with a lot of discussion. Okay, so now I will now turn it to our presenter from Taiwan, the director of Tainan Shangshan Garden and Old Waterwork of Museum, Director Huang Wenhuang. And this site is actually it's very important in Tainan. And Director Huang, he has been engaged with the community involvement and also how to transform this old facility into a popular and welcome spot, and at the same time engage with some education and environment sustainability ideas. So now let's welcome Director Huang Wenhuang. 好，欢迎黄馆长。
谢谢。
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the moderator and my warmest welcome to our speakers from around the world. Am I audible to all of you? Thank you. Then I should proceed. Please give me a second to bring up my slides. I thank you for your patience. This would take a few moments.
Okay. 今天谈的是就是整个
The topic of my presentation today is the development of hydraulic engineering in Taiwan and its changing roles in modern times from the perspective of the Shangshan Garden and Old Waterworks Museum in Tainan, Taiwan. I will talk about the past, present, and future of waterworks in Taiwan. Next slide, please.
这样子，之前台湾最早的时候是因为
In fact, in the 19th century, Taiwan, before the arrival of the Japanese, Taiwanese people drew its drinking water from wells, rainwater, or the local rivers. In fact, drinking water was unclean and unsanitary. Diseases were rampant, and medical and healthcare was fairly undeveloped at the time.
当时每个人人平均
In fact, back in the 19th century, average life expectancy for Taiwanese people was only 40 years old. After the Sino-Japanese War, the Japan's Battle of Conquest of Taiwan took place. During the battle, as a matter of fact, 515 Japanese soldiers were injured, 164 Japanese soldiers were killed. However, more than 26,000 Japanese soldiers became ill in Taiwan, and 4,600 of them eventually died of infectious diseases here in Taiwan. The death toll of soldiers who died from diseases was nearly 30 times more than that of the number of soldiers killed in the battle. So the Japanese government began to consider building and enhancing Taiwan's sanitation systems, including building waterworks here in Taiwan. William Barton, the gentleman featured in the photo on the far left, is credited for surveying the water resources in Taiwan. He is called the father of Taiwan's tap water system. And Hamano Yashiro, William Barton's student, is the father of Taiwan's water courses. In fact, Taiwan's very first water course was established in 1898. The Keelung Water Course was constructed in March 1898. As for the Tainan watercourse, its design was finalized in 1912, and the actual construction was completed in 1922. Here you could see that from this comic strip that when William Barton and his student arrived in Taiwan, they found Taiwan to be an environment with unclean drinking water, and there's a general lack of sanitary system. Professor Burton and Mr. Hamano began surveying the water resources in Taiwan as soon as they arrived, and were credited for constructing some of the earliest waterworks on the island. Now, I would like to show you a timeline of the construction of the Tainan waterworks. Like I said, the construction began in 1912, and it took the workers 1 decade to complete the construction. As you can see that here are some historic photos. The water course was launched eventually in 1922, and it was in operation for a total of 6 decades. And the new Tanding water purification plant was launched in 1982, and the Shanshan water purification plant, namely the Tainan watercourse, was gradually decommissioned. As you could see, the Tainan County government designated it an historic site back in 2002, and the Ministry of Interior designated it a national monument in 2005, and many repair work ensued. Currently, we are the largest watercourse museum in Taiwan, and we pride ourselves in the conservation and the preservation of some of the most original facilities. One of them would be the water treatment process that we take extremely high pride in. The plant was designed to supply water to Tainan City. However, the chosen site by Professor Burton and Mr. Hamano is located about 20 kilometers away from Tainan City. So how do you pump water from the nearby Zhenwen River? And to purify it and to pump it all the way up to the hilltop and then distribute it to the greater Tainan area 20 kilometers away. Here, we use a special system which is called a 2 pumps and 3 flows. What exactly does that mean? That means that the system only uses electricity to pump water twice in the entire process. Here, let's have a look. The first step is to take water from the Zhenwen River and to pump it to the sedimentation pond. So if you come to our museum, you will see on our premises that the water used to be pumped from the Zhenwen River, which is, of course, at a lower elevation. So when you get water to go from a lower to a higher elevation, you would need electricity. So the system used pumps to pump water uphill. So when the water reaches sedimentation pond, it flows naturally downhill to the rapid filtration building, and then it's pumped again to the outbound pump building. From the outbound pump building, the water is then pumped into the cistern, a storage tank for clean water located underground. And from there, the water flows naturally downhill to Tainan City, 20 kilometers away. So what is really interesting is that from the cistern to the Tainan City, we are looking at a distance of 20 kilometers, but the elevation difference is 60 meters. So what the original designer of the system utilized was natural gravity to pump water all the way to the top of the downhill so that the water, after it's being purified, will flow naturally without any need for electricity, and it will flow for over 60 meters in elevation down to the city. Now, a quick introduction to our rapid filtration room. This is called the Building A. This would be the first building you see once you enter our premises. So this is one of the buildings that was added to the compound last. When I mentioned that the construction began in 1912. Back at the time, Tainan City only had a population of 100,000 people. However, over the period of roughly 30 years, the population of Tainan City, in fact, doubled in number. Therefore, they had to add more filtration room. So this is a building that was added at a later stage, and its architectural style differs a great deal from the buildings that were constructed in the first stage. Here we have a photo of the fast filtration tanks. In fact, there is a total of 170 watercourses here in Taiwan, and we are called the living water heritage. And why do people call us the living heritage? It is mainly because of this specific building. Nothing in this building had changed over the past 100 years. The buttresses outside this building, the brick walls, and the filtration tanks have all remained unchanged. Here, we are looking at the ceiling that's about 5 stories high, and over 100 pins, meaning this place has a total indoor area of over 400 square meters. And then here, the water first enters the chemical dosing room for water purification, then is transported to the quick filtration tank room. It is then further filtered and chemically treated here before it is then transported to the outbound pump room. And another feature is its ventilated roof. The ventilated roof is in fact a covered ridge with sidewall openings and engineering innovation that was one of its kind at the time. So here we not witness the predecessors' wisdom in utilizing water resources, but also the innovative hydraulic engineering and architectural techniques used in the construction of the waterworks. Here we have a photo of the outbound pump room. It consists a total of 4 pumps. So the pumps further pumps the water over to the cistern, a storage tank for clean water. So finally, after the water goes through the pump room, it then arrives here. This is the last step. The filtered water flows downhill from this underground cistern and by gravity to the Tainan area 20 kilometers away. To visit the cistern and its adjacent office, you need to climb the 189 step stairs to reach it. And there's also an office, a great building located on the site. You feel like as if you are in Europe. In 2019, in a world catalog of the most famous heritage sites around the world, and our site, particularly this cistern here, was named the #1 most important heritage site in Taiwan. And there are now a large number of bats living inside this underground cistern, forming a special ecosystem, and is now a bat conservation area. So we have gone through many changes and transformation. Here are the 6 highlights of the water course. In the past, it was utilized to purify water, but today it is a park with a huge campus that attracts visitors from near and far. Now, I would like to show you the changes that we have undergone. The water course came into being because of the existence of the water, and water is the cradle of life. So our campus sits on the ground of 56 acres of land. In addition to 2 main buildings, the other smaller buildings are relatively scattered around the campus, allowing a vast area of beautiful trees to grow. And here you could see that the yellow robin, which is endangered species, they have found called our place home. It's now a habitat for a lot of birds and endangered species with a lot of rich ecological resources. And we are in fact, the only pet-friendly monument in Taiwan. We feature an entire area designated as the pet recreational park. And as the first pet-friendly national historic site, we have actually chosen a stray dog that had wandered onto our campus, and he has been named the honorary director of the park. Pet strollers are also available at the entrance, allowing pets to accompany their owners into the park and its museum. So you could see that a lot of visitors come here with their pets, and the pets are just as welcomed as their owners. I talked about that our campus is home to an green oasis, an oasis greenery, lots of trees, lots of cultural biodiversity that could be found here. So we also have designed a lot of environmental education courses and a lot of experiential education opportunities through hands-on activities and personal exploration. So we have spared no efforts in creating diverse learning opportunities for visitors from different age groups. We also are taking advantage of the natural resources on our premises. We have a lot of seasonal flowers that would be in bloom in different seasons. They form breathtaking landscapes. I believe that to achieve the purpose of raising awareness and education, it should be really done in a fun and engaging and interactive manner. They do not come here. Normally people come here for fun, for great time, to enjoy a time in the nature with the family. They're not here necessarily for like a classroom like experience. So whatever courses we provide, we try to make it engaging, interactive, and fun. We do talk about how water is purified. We do talk about the importance of sanitation work and hydraulic engineering, but we do it in a fun way through hands-on experiences and different activities. We also take advantage of the vast space we have. We have in fact designed a variety of visitor experiences. As you can see in the picture, we have diverse facilities for inclusive learning. We have a wading pool. We have a sand pit. All these are elements we have taken out or that are inspired by the actual workings of the water course. And they have been very popular among visitors from near and far. Now, I want to talk about the shared memory that we have with the local community. In the past, there is a chimney of 36 meters high standing on the premises. It was destroyed during the war, but now people could come to our site and they could take out their smartphone and take a photo of themselves and turn on an AR, VR function, and the virtual reality chimney wouldn't appear in the photo. I also want to talk a little bit about the local connections and the local community engagement that we have been engaged in. As you could see, we work with experts and scholars to conduct field surveys and interviews. At this photo, you could see the local people providing oral history about this toilet that used to be found all on the premises of water work. We also work with the local temples and local businesses and the local academia and the schools for a variety of programs.
那目前因为山上本身它就
I want to talk a little bit more about our industry connections. The neighborhoods around our museum is well known for its agricultural produce. So we thought that we would diversify our local partnerships. So we have farmers market, the local farmers, growers, with them bringing their produce to our museum and set out a stand on the weekends and things like that. In fact, we also engage in cross-museum cooperation. We work with a Nanjing Planetarium, the Zhuosen Fossil Park. We understand that the Tainan city is also a location that is well known for its fossils. And then we also work with the Tree Valley Science Center as well as the Museum of Prehistoric Culture. So we have made connections with these other 4 museums, creating an alliance of 5 different museums. So whenever we host an event, it's not just about setting out a farmer's market to attract more and more visitors. It's also about creating synergy. It's also about working with other museums so we can grow. So we have been hosting joint performances, sharing our library data. We have formed joint guided walks. I also want to talk about local participation. We have been working with the local faith centers. In celebrating the 100th anniversary of the museum, we worked with the local temple. We worked with the local papaya growers, tea growers. And so we were able to create local cuisine using the local produce and hosting events, not just at our museum, but at the temples. To bring the entire community together. We also work with the local schools. And we have worked, for example, we work with the Department of History of the Cheng Kung University, that is also located in Tainan. We know that some citizens in Tainan City used to suffer from Blackfoot disease, which is caused by unsanitary, unclean drinking water. So we worked with the Department of History to create a special exhibition dedicated to that specific topic. And what is really interesting is that we recently have partnered with local enterprises and with the local beekeepers to set up these beehives on our premises and use the honey to make more products. So as the previous 2 speakers have mentioned, it is important to reach out for community engagement. Partnerships is key, whether you're combining music, whether you're combining interactive, engaging content. Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, actually said, the highest virtue is like water. It adapts its form to the vessel that it fills, yet it does not cling to any one shape. So I hope that in the spirit of Lao Tzu's saying, the roles that we play can change with the changing times. We need to be adaptable just like water. This kind of adaptability is the true wisdom. In the beginning, we focused on educating people about the hydraulic engineering, but then we've decided to diversify to welcome a wider range of audiences by focusing on making our environment more accessible, by focusing and promoting our biodiversity, by using water as an overarching theme to connect different topics, whether it's cultural, historical, or technical, or hydraulical, just to name a few. We believe that we've been doing this in line with the spirit of Lao Tzu. The highest virtue is like water, it adapts all the time. And this adaptability is the true form of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Derek Huang's very vivid and very illustrative presentation. This is really quite very nice project. I think we are not only seeing the architecture and historical fact and engineering, but also as the ambition to be a local center and engage with all the different museums for the local development. It's really excellent. Thank you very much. And so now let's move for our next speaker. Mr. Gregor von Essen, and he's the managing director and co-founder for the Water Agent since 2016. And he has been working on many projects, water-related project all over the Asia. And recently, his institution is focused on the UNESCO's Water Resilience Challenge program since 2021. And the project is all over the Southeast Asia. So I think I'm very looking forward to listen his presentation about addressing the water crisis in Asia, critical reflection and outlook of youth engagement. So now let's welcome Ms. Le Greker, please.
Thank you, Dr. Xiaowei, and members of the Asian Network of Industrial Heritage. It's a real pleasure to be joining you. A good morning from the Netherlands. It has been a very inspiring session so far. It's amazing how much great work is being done by so many people, trying to engage young people, our next generation, with the important water, environment, climate issues that we are dealing with. I'm hoping to contribute a little bit of insight from the work that we have been doing. So I will run through some examples of programs that we have done, but maybe providing also a little bit of input to our discussion later on. I think it's also interesting to see and consider, discuss together where we stand in terms of engaging young people, because it's actually not easy for professionals to engage young people and understand how we do that well. We see that a lot of young people are very concerned about water and climate. They are concerned about their own future. They want to have a voice, they want to be involved, but doing that in the right way, I think, is really not an easy challenge for us. And there are many different barriers in our way. So I will run through some examples fairly quickly. If I can go to the next slide, please. And then if you allow me to do, I will also provide a little bit of reflection on the about 15 years that I've been trying to engage youth with water in Asia, and maybe offer some suggestions going forward. Maybe that's interesting as input for discussion. Next slide, please. Just a very quick introduction. The Water Agency is a social enterprise. Our mission is connecting people and organizations to collaborate for clean and safe water. All of my colleagues are actually based in the Asia Pacific region, and soon we are also launching in Latin America. We work as a bridge between local and international partners, private companies, government, NGOs, in identifying and developing water projects. And our role in these projects is often focused on stakeholder management, being a bridge between experts from different disciplines, local partners in Asia, but also international funders and experts. Community and youth engagement is something that is really at the heart of what we do. We believe that good projects have people at their hearts, not engineering or technology or policy, but it starts and ends with people. Education is, I think, also an critical and inevitable part of running good people projects. Next one. So youth engagement is something that we have done already for a long time. Actually, that already predates the start of the Water Agency. So we started running our first youth program in the Asia region in 2010. Since that time, we have worked across the Asia region, working with many different types of partners, universities, governments, international and local, many private sector companies, NGOs, dozens of universities across the region, always with a goal of engaging young people with real life challenges, not challenges that we make up or that come from a textbook, but take young people out from their classrooms and their campuses and homes and take them to the places where actual water problems manifest themselves. Have them learn and participate and contribute from their own perspective. Next one, please. So going looking at the programs that we run, the Asia Water Challenge is kind of like the umbrella program for youth engagement that we have. More recently, a few years now, we started adding the Asia Raincraft program, which I will talk about a bit more. It is using, I think, the unique skills of young people to play games. They play games too much through the eyes of us as parents, but gaming has phenomenal capabilities and brings a lot of skills and insight and perspectives of young people that I think can be extremely valuable in addressing water and environment issues as well. And then we have two platforms supporting our programs, the Asia Climate Lab platform and our Asia Water Academy. We have started developing over the years quite a large toolkit of building blocks, tools that we combine and bring together in how we design our youth engagement programs. I think from the previous presentations, we have seen many of these same elements coming through as well. Giving a voice to youth, a lot is about education and awareness, giving young people a chance to get their hands dirty and actually do work in the field and feel and sense what water really means and how they can contribute to solving problems, reaching out to communities, understanding the complexity of stakeholder management, contributing their own unique skill sets, such as using social media and digital tools. So a lot of different ingredients, I think, that we have been trying to bring together, and this is constantly developing because also we are still learning about what youth engagement really means and how we can improve it. So I'm going to pick out a few examples. Next one, please. I think all of these actually have some unique aspects of heritage to them as well, not just industrial heritage, but also other aspects of heritage. So being mindful of the host of the webinar, I thought it was good to look at some examples that we have worked on that have some of that heritage component. This is a program already from 7-8 years ago in the city of Semarang, the old town of Kota Lama, a colonial old town established by the Dutch. It is faced by a very complex set of water environmental challenges. The city is often flooded. The water supply network is not working well. The sewer system is not working well, and as it is posing a huge threat to the heritage that the beautiful heritage that makes up this old town. So supported by many different government agencies from the city and the province of Central Java in Indonesia, we embarked on a 6-month journey with a group of ambitious young people from across Indonesia, and really having them offer their perspective on what a water-sensitive city means, what it can offer to also preserving and reviving heritage in the city. Of course, that needs to be in alignment with the interests of residents, local shop owners, and other people that have an interest in the city. Interestingly, many of the ideas that have come out of this program have also been taken further by the Semarang government as part of the master planning for the Semarang city. The next one is an example from another place that, of course, is very rich of heritage, cultural heritage, industrial heritage, but also the unique culture of the people. This is the city of Yangon, Myanmar, the old heart of the city on the riverside. Again, a city plagued by many different types of water and environmental related problems. On the right-hand side, you see the old sewer system that was installed by the British, I think, in the 19th century. Still functioning, but not functioning anymore as part of a well-functioning sewer system. So again, in Yangon, we have been working for almost 3-4 years, working with universities, government partners. This is all before the military coup took place. These days, it's a lot harder to work with communities and young people in Myanmar, unfortunately. But we were still there in the earlier days and mobilizing a lot of young people to see what a water resilient future for their city could be. The next one. This is a program that has been running for, I think, 4 years now, working together with the Man and Biosphere Reserve Program of UNESCO. Of course, this is less about industrial heritage and more about natural heritage, but also important aspects of community livelihoods and community well-being. Biosphere reserves are these unique ecosystems with very delicate balances between the interests of nature, economy, and people. UNESCO has set a high bar for increasing the dynamics and the dialogue around sustainability in these biosphere reserves and making it a priority for young people to be part of it. So for the past 3 years, starting in Indonesia and then expanding to Vietnam, and last year running the program across all of the 10 countries in Southeast Asia, we have been engaging young people from all of these countries, connecting them with their local biosphere reserves and making them part of a process where they can actually contribute and participate and even implement their own ideas in these biosphere reserves. Quite an ambitious program, I must say. Yeah, I think it shows already from Sarah's presentation that UNESCO, I think, is from my perspective, really setting a high standard for what youth engagement should really be about and what it can be. So we've been incredibly happy to be working with them. Just zooming in on this one a little bit more. Next slide, please. So this has been a very long process, going from an extensive education and training program with these participants from across these 10 countries in Southeast Asia, taking people into the fields, having them learn about the unique characteristics of biosphere reserves. All of them got assigned mentors. So we had a huge team of professionals from private sector, government, international, local, that act as mentors for the young people, guiding them through the process of problem identification, designing for solutions, and then ultimately in the last phases of the project, also actually bringing their own original ideas and solutions into the biosphere reserves, and also giving that ultimate evidence that young people don't only have a voice, they can actually get things done on the ground as well. And I think that is something quite unique, and I think distinguishing many youth activities here from what we see around the world. Young people are capable of so much. If we empower them and we give them the means, then they can maybe do better than most of us as professionals. So that has been for me also and quite an unbelievable experience to be part of. And then the grand final was at the World Water Forum, I guess next door from the Water Museum activities of Sarah. And so having a lot of young people at the World Water Forum was quite quite special. Another type of heritage, we're working in the city of Pekalongan, a city on the north coast of Central Java. The city is known as the batik capital. So it is where the unique textile that is part of Indonesia's unique cultural identity is being produced. Unfortunately, the art of batik and the production of batik brings a lot of water and environmental related problems. Excessive amounts of groundwater are being used for the batik production. Batik wastewater is being discharged untreated into the city's rivers and canals. So already for a few years, we are mobilizing local stakeholders, batik communities, including children and students, in raising awareness for sustainable water management. And yeah, this is expected to be a process and a program continuing for the next couple of years. So another aspect of heritage. Okay, and then I think the last example. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is about using gaming for good things. Kids love games. Gaming needs a lot of skill that I think us as older professionals may not always appreciate. So we're actually using the Minecraft game, quite popular with young people, and we use it to raise awareness on water environment issues, and we use it as a playground for young people to actually participate in the design of solutions for actual sites that exist, like cities or even rural areas. So rebuilding, you see the picture on the left-hand side, that is actually one of the famous monuments on Bali. It is part of a neighborhood in which there are a lot of water problems. So we're actually recreating parts of cities, neighborhoods, towns in Minecraft, and then combining fieldwork and virtual fieldwork. So people are actually walking through the streets of the model itself. They start engaging with their environment. They start talking about the issues that exist, and are invited to design solutions. So Minecraft has a huge toolkit for designing solutions. I've seen students like actually designing complete wastewater treatment plants and sewer systems and flood retention ponds, all in Minecraft. And it's mind-blowing what you can do using tools like this. Okay. If you like to get a little bit of a view on all of the different aspects and activities under these programs, then please refer to the Asia Climate Lab website, which has a lot of materials from our recent programs. Okay, I think I need to hurry. Do I still have 5 minutes, maybe? So from my perspective, having been working with younger generations and water for almost 15 years now, I think there's an interesting progression happening, and I think it's worth a bit of reflection. So when I started, I think the motivations for many organizations like governments, donors, private sector companies to aim to organize youth programs and engage youth. I think the most important drivers were for companies to recruit young people. So they saw it as an interesting way of recruiting young talent for their organizations. For private companies, it was mostly as a way of showing how good they are. I've met a lot of companies priding themselves on, yeah, look at our company taking youth so seriously, but always as a way of showing how good they were themselves. So serving their own business interests maybe more than serving the interests of young people. Youth engagement has also been emerging as a very important way for bilateral relations to be shown. So let's say between our government in the Netherlands and Vietnam, making young people part of the bilateral activities gives the countries a feel that young people matter, and it's great to have young people on the stage, which then also create great photo opportunities. The photo you see here, that is the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, with one of our student groups. I know he has a big heart for young people, but he's also doing it for the picture, and the Dutch government is also doing this for the picture. So it is good for the young people to be part of it, but I think there is a large element of self-serving to the way I think a lot of us have been organizing youth programs in the past. More recently, of course, you see a big influence of CSR. So many big corporates are starting to develop CSR programs and trying to show good. They start organizing youth programs. There's nothing wrong with organizing youth programs, but I think there is a fine line between organizing youth programs and kind of greenwashing a bad reputation or or bad sustainable behavior that many companies still manifest today. So I think that's something that we should be careful about. And of course, the SDGs have also been an important driver for youth engagement programs, and for very good reasons. In recent years, what I've seen is that the importance of inclusivity and social inclusivity have been an important driver for youth engagement as well. I have seen a lot of international donor projects that start showing like, yeah, we have programs for women, we have programs for ethnic minorities, we have programs for youth. Look at us being very socially inclusive. Again, I don't say it is wrong. It is, as a matter of fact, it's great that there is more recognition for the position of women. It is more important for youth to be involved in water projects. It is important that we start seeing the position of ethnic minorities in many parts, also in Asia. but it has to be sincere, and it has to be meaningful. It has to be purposeful in the way it is done. It cannot just be a tick in the box and say like, yeah, we did a youth program. Look at us being so inclusive, right? So I think there is definitely a development in the way that I've seen people committing themselves to youth engagement. But I think there is still room for improvement. So last slide, next one. Maybe, sorry, one step further. Last slide, I think this is. Yeah, I think it's very important that we really start working even more than we do today from the youth perspective. Maybe for many professionals, it is still not that we do that deliberately, but maybe we are still too self-serving in the way that we organize and design programs engaging youth. There cannot never be anything wrong about engaging youth. Every bit of training and sort of stage that you offer for them to be part of something is good and important. But really designing from the youth perspective, I think, is still something that we can and should improve. Because the fact of the matter from my perspective is, and we work in a lot of water projects in Asia, is that without the young generation, without really making youth part of what we do, there is no hope that we will address the water, environment, climate issues today. No government can solve the problems we have. None of the experienced professionals working in water today can address the problems. If we don't make youth part of what we do, I think it's going to be really hard. So I think that's something that we really need to pay attention to. There's many cultural barriers. I also see that in Asia. I see that here in Europe. As professionals, we still tend to see young people as like, okay, you sit back, you listen, you learn from us as your teachers, but we need to let that go. It is about respect between generations, but if we don't give youth an equal position to us in voicing themselves, participating, contributing, again, I think we're going to have a really hard time in addressing the water problems that we face today. Time is running out. Youth are our hope for the future, and let's take that seriously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gregor. I think it's really thoughtful conclusion for us in terms of youth engagement. What's the impact and we expect for the youth engagement for our project, no matter what kind of project. Thank you very much. And I also enjoyed some new technology to sort out the problem like microwave and so on. Thank you. Okay, so today we are very successfully nearly on time to finish our full presentation. We still have a little bit time for discussion. I think after we hear all the different perspectives from the different countries, I think start with Sarah's broader view for the global network and the on-site practice by Circus. Then we have a real site project management by Direct Huang, and we have Greg to look at the water crisis and how should we face with the youth engagement. Really a lot of things to think. So can I just open the floor to our participants? I don't know, is anyone who would like to ask some question for each other or something interesting? Maybe I can start. Oh, okay, Sarah, it's.
No, I don't have a question. No, I thought, are there any questions from the audiences who are watching us, or? Because I haven't seen anything in
any, yeah.
Do we have an audience?
Oh, yeah. Here has one. What role can youth play in advocating for the protection of water heritage sites and influence water conservation policies? I think this is good for. So how about Sarah can start first? You already work on this for quite a long time.
Not so much with heritage and youth. That's been in the last 7 years. But I think what we're trying to do with the classrooms, with having children go away, taking one actionable point with them, looking at outcomes in the long term, also looking at impact. I think those are all important. I'm not really too much into advocating for physical site protection things. That's not what museum does. I mean, the museum is more educational, raising issues, talking, having space for dialogue and conversations. But I think through ECOMOS and other initiatives, there are probably a lot more opportunities for youth to get involved. During COVID, we ran something called the Water Seekers Fellowship with another nonprofit that worked on policy issues. And whilst we worked with the fellows, and it was a very competitive process because everyone was stuck at home during COVID and people wanted to do things, they wanted to contribute. So we did receive a number of applications, and we mentored these young people to do stories for our website. And the other nonprofit, the Social and Political Research Foundation, they worked with them to draw out recommendations and things for water policy. But water policy is a huge, challenging process, as I think those of us in the sector know. So.
Okay, I think perhaps Gregor can give us some, maybe one of your project or some project which has some related issue, which I remember you show you a slide, there are some related heritage issue.
Well, I think one of the most important things that youth can do is like show others how important that heritage is to you. Don't sit at home and wait for things to get better, because they won't just automatically. Don't wait for the adults to get things done. Take initiative, go out on the street and embrace the heritage that you want to preserve. Make it part of a festival, make it part of a great activity with your friends, make it the place where you go every Sunday to have a picnic or play games. Show people around you that these places are important, and also start seeing how you can add value to that place. So I think showing ownership of the issues, in this case, maybe a heritage that is valuable to you and that you feel needs to be protected, then make people see around you that this really matters to you. And then mobilize more young people to join and be part of it. I think Supreet was showing some great examples of young people really showing how they are energized and can be mobilized. And I think others will take notice, right? When these things happen, they will start seeing that it needs attention. So yeah, be active, proactive.
Need to have their own voice. So I think Sukrit can give us some of your opinion.
So I'll actually kind of want to refer to the first question that was sent and add on to the statements that Sarah and Greg made. And I would like to refer to the project that we were doing called Climate Wall, where we worked with the students in the Sundarbans. And we kind of made them aware of the traditional knowledge of mangroves and talked to them about the different types of mangroves that actually exist in the Sundarbans. And they actually painted those mangroves, made poetry about it. And that was actually a way of knowing what is the functionality of those mangroves. And they actually understood, what mangrove is good for which part of the Sundarbans. Not all mangroves are good for the riverside. There are some mangroves that are good for the internal islands as well. And very interestingly, just last year, we were having a conversation with the people who are still kind of continuing the work. And they told me that the local government would actually plant eucalyptus trees when they were building inland roads. And eucalyptus trees are particularly not famous, are famous for drawing all the fresh water. And now in the Sundarbans, because it's right next to the sea, saltwater intrusion is like a huge issue. So that is when these people actually complained to the government and said that, why are you planting eucalyptus trees from outside? Why don't you give us the business and we'll provide you the mangroves that are right for this part of the city. And not only will it help to kind of maintain the saltwater freshwater balance, but it also generates economy in the area. And there was a small kind of a tender that was given out to the group that we were working with. And I think these are little victories that we work with. And I guess once these become more famous, like I said, you just need to go out there and do it and see if it works or not. If it doesn't work, we experiment further. But we got to first try and raise our voices and say that, okay, this is wrong, but this might be a right way to approach. So I just wanted to share that little experience that we've had, which can kind of inspire policy change in the future. So as Sarah said, that we can only initiate it. The rest will happen on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's true. Really, if we can empower the youth and bring up the community voice, then we can try to do something. Yeah. And another thing just occurring to me is recently in Taiwan, in Tainan Art Museum, we have one quite a big exhibition about Zhenwen River. It's one of the biggest river in Taiwan. And I think because it's a very big scale and with a lot of multidiscipline about installation, visual art, and so on. I think through this way, I think can bring some youth people, they go into the museum, they also can feel more about what's the problem occurring to our water crisis. Okay, I think we have one question to Derek Huang. 馆长，你有看到这边吗？
Dr. Huang?
他可能他想要知道那个亚洲的那个水的网络哈。
是。您说亚洲水的网络？
对，看起来是这样。The Asia water work now， 就是说有没有那个亚洲的水的网络 ，especially the water supply system.
Whether there is a network for Asia waterworks. Currently, here in Taiwan, hydraulic engineering and its related knowledge originally came from Japan during the Japanese colonial period. So there is a network between waterworks museums, institutions, between Taiwan and Japan. There has always been such a historic connections. For example, tomorrow from Okasa, Japan, you know that there's a famous historic site regarding and watercourse in Osaka. Their representatives are coming to Taiwan to visit us. And that's happening tomorrow. And the rapid filtration tanks that we have on our site are in fact very rare. The ones in Japan have all been abandoned. So the Japanese researchers are coming to examine our rapid filtration water tanks. So there's a lot of international exchanges in that regard.
Already have close, either have some echo. Already have some connection with Japan's water heritage. And I think this might be good start for the Asia water. Yeah. And in addition, I actually was thinking about, can our water museum join to the Global Water Museum Network? Is there any requirement and so on?
Are you asking that as a question?
Yes, I would like to see, say, for example, if Derek Huang wants to join the
Of course, yes. I was wondering whether we could, wherever Annie is, I was wondering if we could have 5 minutes as a group after the webinar is over, just for our own internal sharing. I think there are many things that I'd like to just have some closing points on, but that's between us. But I'm looking at the questions, and yes, British engineers in all the countries that the British colonized, including India, a lot of the water systems, networks, sewerage, ideas of public health, management during plagues and epidemics, it all goes back to our colonial history. Yeah, a lot of it does. But of course, we've had the pre-colonial, more community-based water management systems as well. And that's also important. But the British came and closed many of them down because they thought they were unhygienic. They closed the step wells because they thought they were signs of waterborne infections. So a lot of things that I probably share a similar history. I don't think that there is any Asian network of waterworks museums or waterways, or there aren't too many water museums in Asia, or at least in Southeast Asia. We have a lot from China, but we would like to expand and have more members from Southeast Asia, including your country, including Taiwan, would be good. So yeah, and there are ways of joining. There is a small membership fee. It's not a lot of money. And there are opportunities then to interact with and meet other partners when we have our biannual meeting. So the next one is coming up in Portugal, in Porto, in October. So that's something that we do. And when we have these meetings, they're very, very interesting conversations around education and art and water, of course, but lots of things are happening. So I would urge you to consider joining, either as an individual or a museum or an affiliated partner. Universities, academic institutions, other NGOs can also join as affiliated partners.
Very good. Let's do it. I think at least we can have a 2 water museum, one in Tainan, one in Taipei. I think both all close relate to, as you mentioned, about colonial infrastructure, but it's a good outcome nowadays. And the interesting thing in Taipei is still in use, so it's still living heritage in a way. So
yeah.
And on the other hand, I think we also do a lot of survey in terms of irrigation system. So Jianan irrigation system, because it transformed our landscape a lot. I think this is also one very important issue. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So what else we have? I think this one is not a question, but more comment. Yeah, he said, because I think in sharing Tainan's water work shaped by British and their Japanese students.
I think we answered that.
Yeah, we answered that. So, yeah. All right. So I think we are nearly there. Do we have something want to share with our audience? I think our time is also up. If nothing to, I just want to make an ending before we close today's seminars. And on behalf of the organizer from the ANI, I want to say great thank you for all of your participation and contribution for our talk. I think it also has a lot of inspiration, which we can continue as a spark in the brain to think about how to cooperate in the near future. So we look forward to seeing you again, perhaps if you have time, because in September and October, we will continue have some more heritage-related seminars. So if you are have spare time, I think Annie can keep some information to you, then you are welcome to join us. Yeah. So thank you very much for all of you. Then I look forward to seeing you again. And welcome to Taiwan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to Taiwan next time. You can see some water museums and also waterways. I think this is really essential for humans' life and also relate to the cultural landscape and a lot of diverse issues. And this is important things to do. Okay, so now I just closed our webinar here today, and Sarah would like to talk